Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Today we're going to be doing some body filling on all these little spots we've done some work on. A little patch panel here, the dent by the mirror mount, a little patch panel here and there. So we're just going to get all these things filled all at once. And I tend to do that. I'll save them up. And that way I'm only mixing body filler once and then going around hitting everything, cheese grading it, rough sanding it, kind of just hit them all at once. And then if we have time, we'll go around and search out all the little dings and nicks and little chips that are in the cab and mix up some catalyzed glazing putty and hit those as well. And that way we'll be kind of done filling and that kind of stuff. And we can move on to some final sanding and get ready for some primer. So let's get these spots prepped up and ready for some body filler. Let's take a look at what we're going to be doing today. We have the spot where we took the antenna out, and a little patch panel there. We have the spot where the mirror had been kinked over. We got the metal to metal super hard body filler in there. We have to finish that area off. Got a patch panel down here at the bottom, needs some work. We also have some areas like this that have pretty heavy paint buildup there that we have to kind of feather out with some body filler. And we've got the similar thing over here as well. This side obviously was much worse, so this is super thick. I mean, you guys can't feel that, but that is just a lip like you would not believe. There's so much paint on this truck. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lay it down. I'll probably mask all this off and then lay some body filler over this whole thing to try to help me fill that. And then we've got a little spot down here on this patch panel, and then we'll just kind of float this whole thing in right here. And that way it's better than me trying to take a DA and feather this back. There's obviously no room. Either that or I just take all the paint off. So we're just gonna fill this and then probably move over to some glazing later to get that taken care of. And that's about it. So when I'm grinding this, what I'm trying to do is make sure these edges are nice and tight. And when I'm grinding, the paint isn't just flecking off there, it's actually grinding away. If you see paint starting to chip off and everything, you gotta keep going until you get down to some sound material. Now we put heat on here when we welded this in, and we could see where it got scorched. It smoked a little bit, but what happened farther down that we don't really understand how hot that got underneath and maybe caused it to delaminate a little bit. So I'll just grind back till I know I can see it feathering out really nice and not coming off in pieces. I don't care how small the pieces are, it should come off in like dust, not like chunks. So we'll go around and I smooth out these edges to help myself out when I'm laying the body filler on. And now we're just going to blow this off real good. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. As soon as I started blowing air on this, and I use a lot of air with this nozzle, it comes to a pretty small point, paint flaked off right there. I just saw 2 chips flake right off. So that means I got to take this back farther. Now that could have happened from the heat, but I doubt it because it's pretty far away, or it could just be a bad paint job underneath. So it doesn't mean I'm going to just ignore it. I have to do something about it. So don't be shy when you're blowing it off. If something flies off, just keep chasing it. I don't know what was done underneath this. Neither would you with the car if you're working and not stripping it back down to bare steel. Okay, I'm going to bring you in close right here, and the paint's still flying off. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but right here there is a spot of green. That's the original green paint job on this truck, I believe. Well, it's got red then green. So whoever put the blue over this green did not sand this area. It doesn't look like they sanded it at all. I don't see any scratches in it, maybe some scuff marks. So that's bad news. But we're not taking this truck down to bare steel. It's not that paint job. We talked about that a few times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the air hose in here and try to blow this back. Now with a pressure washer or air hose, you can almost get any paint to lift, but you have to really try at it. I wasn't really trying at it. I was just blowing this off really well to make sure the body filler would stick correctly. So I'm going to take the grinder and I'm going to come down in this groove, and it could have originated down in this groove where they didn't sand properly. And then I'm going to hit some of these other areas. We're going to blow it off again until we get back down to sound material. Then we can make the repair. All right, so we got it back. We had to come back here quite a ways, and I took this back, and then I blew it off really well, trying to get the paint to lift, and it won't lift anymore. So we know we're at a sound area. Now this is my work, so I'm going to make sure this is done. What's going on the rest of the paint, I can't say, and the owner understands that. So I'm going to take some 80 grit. We're going to sand all the way around this really good, scuff this up really nice, and get some masking tape on it. We'll get some body filler on here. I'm going to go ahead and get the other areas prepped the exact same way, blow it off real well, chase any flaking paint or any other problems, and then we'll get them blown off and masked and ready for some body filler. All right, it's about 57, 58 degrees in the shop, so I mixed this stuff up. You can tell how blue it is. I mixed it up pretty strong, pretty hot. So we're going to force it down in here, especially on these edges. Making sure we're getting really good contact. You can see I got everything masked off like I usually do. And I went ahead and masked this off and scuffed, so I want to do this lower area right here, and then we'll get some prime on that inside piece, see where we're at. So I just kind of want to bridge across this paint here, get it down in there real good. I think this knife is a little big for what I want to do right now. Switch over to the 1-inch knife. Okay, now I've got everything on there. It is not pretty. It just kind of blobbed on there, but I got a good physical contact. And now we can start prettying it up. Now when it's cool outside like it is today, the body filler is more viscous. So you need to kind of remember that when you're trying to gauge if it's starting to set up on you. It feels like it's pulling a little harder. It could be just because it's cold and the material is just that thick right now. So I'm bending the crap out of this thing trying to make this radius here. And that's what it's going to do, is going to make my life easier when I go to sand, hopefully. And then I'll come in here. Fingers are cramping up. And just kind of look down through there, look for light as I'm pulling. And that's looking pretty good right there. That's one of the holes for the mirror. So now we've got to work this. And we're already losing it. Look at that. From one pull to the next, it was already done. So that's all that'll go right now. I got to get this off my board and mix another batch. Just got too heavy-handed with the hardener. Even as cool as it is, it went off on me. So we're going to let that set. I'm going to cheese grate it here in a second, and then we'll get another batch mixed up. Okay, let that be a lesson for you how not to do it. Don't get cocky and think because it's only 58 degrees in the shop you can put that much hardener in there. So it's a little early to cheese grate it. I'm going to knock the tops off here. Just real careful. Get rid of some of my mistakes up here. And I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to grab a putty knife real quick. We're going to scrape all that off. If you screw up, just don't pretend you didn't do it. Fix it. So I don't think I had that pushed in there properly. I was meaning to come back to it. So I'm going to scrape all this off right here while it's still soft. And then we're going to come, after it hardens up, we're going to re-scuff all this and get it prepped, and then come back to it. If you make a mistake, gotta fix it. It's just going to come back to haunt you later if you don't. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Maybe a little bit more through here. Okay, so it's looking pretty good, even after my screw up. Get the cheese grater cleaned up real quick here. So that looks good. I'm going to leave the tape on. I usually peel it while the body filler's still soft, but I'm going to leave it on because we got to come back and clean this up, and then I may lay over onto that a little bit more when I put the next coat on. So we're going to let that set up all the way. I'm going to mix up another batch, a slower batch, and I'm going to go take care of those other spots. Let's see if this one's going to come out a little better. Okay. Make sure I just have enough so I can make a pass without going back. I'd rather scrape more off than have to go back and do it again. Little curve right here. We're going to do right like this. And I'm actually using this tape as a guide. Take me around. I got louvers here. I'll switch sides. Try this left-handed. Yeah, doesn't look as good left-handed, does it? All right, we're going to have to switch back to right hand. Yeah, that feels more comfortable. Clean off my knife. And let's try that again. A little more material. All right, that looks pretty good. Now this one for sure we're going to peel the tape while it's still soft. Get that out of there. Just like that. If I didn't do that, I'd have body filler down inside that groove and I'd have to sand it all out, which we don't want it. That groove looks fine. So let me go see if I can hit that other side real quick before this stuff sets up, and then we're about ready. While we're waiting for that body filler to set up so I can cheese grate it, let's look at the ones we're going to hit with the glazing putty. So we got this chip out right here. It's got blue paint in the bottom, and I think it's a little low here. The owner had sanded quite a bit there. So we're going to get that one. We've got one down here. We've got a little dinger right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's right there. We're going to get that scuffed up. There's one on the top, way up on top. And then we have a couple of small ones along the back here. We got one right here, a little bad spot right there. And I think there's one or two more around here. So we're gonna hunt those down, get them scuffed up with some 80 grit, mix up some glazing putty, and get those hit real quick too. All right, got some catalyzed glazing putty mixed up. We got a couple little ones. I just got a little screwdriver here so I don't get a big old thing. And these are just little tiny chips. And this stuff is really good for this. Just getting these chips done. Got a little spot over here. We use a 1-inch putty knife. And way over here, looks like a screwdriver or a tool or something slipped when they were taking the windows out. Pretty good little gash over here in the paint. So I can fill that in real nice and then sand it later. That way we don't, we're not trying to feather out all this crap, we're just filling it, And then we got this dinger up here. And then I've got these right here. Need to be done. A definite low spot with a big chip in the middle of it. When I prepped it, I was careful to make sure I dug down deep inside these chips with the sandpaper to make sure we got all the loose material and anything that was down in the bottom out. I'm just going to feather that out a little bit. And then we're going to go right along this edge right here. I think we had a problem. We were working the body filler. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and connect these together. And that should work right there. Okay, I've got a little bit to do around on the other side, and then that is about it. Okay, so we got everything glazed that I wanted to, and while that's setting up, we're going to go ahead and hit this and start roughing this in, where the antenna was welded in, and then where the mirror mount was. So I'm going to just be using some 36 grit to rough this down. Now I had tape on here, so we got a pretty good profile here. I'm going to try to keep my sand scratches really close. If I really get carried away here, I'm going to have scratches from 36 grit way up on the top, and I don't want that. So we're just going to rough it in here. I'm using pretty light pressure, although this is not bending, couldn't bend at all. But I'm just trying to let the sandpaper and the board do its job without me pushing down, trying to make this go faster. So it's coming together pretty nice. Obviously we're way too high. We're starting to get close. I'm putting sand scratches in the paint here. I'll try to keep it short strokes. We're going to have to probably glaze this or a double coat primer to get all those sand scratches out, but that's fine. That's part of the process. Now my paper, what you can do is, see, this is a fairly rolled line here. It's not a sharp crease. So you can actually slide your paper over when you're sanding these and have the paper over just a little bit so this ridge right here is rubbing up against there. So if I adjust this over a little bit, that should help me keep me from letting this 36 grit get in there and putting a big old deep groove that I'm going to have to refill later to get that profile back. So like that, Now I've got a little bit of rubber and aluminum right here that can rub, and I can safely sand around this corner and not worry about putting a deep groove, and then I can sweeten that nice radius up later with something a little bit finer. And the same goes going this way. Okay, as you can see, we're just starting to go through right here. So I'm going to stop in this area. So you know how I like to work them. I work the perimeter and then I bring it to the center. So that's feeling good there. We're getting really close here. Pretty good ridge right here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working down here in this area. And then we're going to get this nice and smooth across this radius here. Okay, this is coming out really nice. So we got a little bit of work to do out in here. I'm going to do that with some 80 grit. And now we have to reshape this part right here where we had the paint was ground away in this area. So I'm going to just rough it out just with this, and then we're going to switch over to 80. I don't want to mess around too much with the 36 grit right here. That wouldn't be too smart. All right, I'm going to stop right there. We're going to switch back to 80 grit, and we'll see how well we can make this thing look. All right, I got some 80 grit on here. This is well-worn 80 grit, so that'll help me not gouge out too fast. We're just going to do the same thing. We can see the edge of my grind, my repair right there, so that's coming in real nice. A little bit of a lump right there I don't like. You can see how switching over to the 80 grit, I'm able to get in and feather these down without worrying about gouging away paint. So I can bring that line right up to the repair line. So these body lines here and here are pretty critical. So I'm going to switch over to a smaller block once I get this roughed down a little bit more with the 80 grit. Okay, so by working this side, then that side, back and forth, this line's coming together without even trying too much. It's got a little bit of a lump in it, so we're going to try to get that sweetened up right now. Okay, by working this side and this side, this line is actually starting to come together really nice because we're bridging across these two. Now this line here has a curve in it. It curves like this. So it curves out and then wraps around the corner, almost like an eyebrow. So we're going to make sure that line stays in there really sweet. And I may even get a pencil out and draw a curve on here to make sure that I'm matching that exactly. All right, just grabbed a little block of wood here, and we're going to use that with some old 80 grit here to try to get this straightened out here so I can stand it up on edge. It's feeling pretty good. I got a little bit of a line in there when I was sanding this way. I don't know if that's going to come out. We'll probably get some primer on this thing first, and that'll help me see the shape and know that I'm getting it right on the money. It'll expose high and low spots too, little spot prime. All right, we got smoothed out pretty good with the 80 grit. It's looking pretty good. I do have a little groove right here that I need to get some glazing putty in. when I was filling it, it's in too low. So we need to get a little glazing in there. But before we can move on to any of that, I do need to get this line right here sweetened up. So it's parallel to this inside lip right here. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a pencil and I'm going to run my hand down through here. I'm going to find about where it belongs, and I'm just going to run this pencil down through here. I'm going to try, and I'm going to use my fingers as a gauge. Kind of just rotate around, get my body position right here. And just come around just like that. So that gives me a line to sand to now. Now this line is the back of the roll, not the face. So that's ultimately where it's going to start rolling off. So what I'm going to try to do is just sand this. You know, I got a lump here and I got a high spot here. So I'm going to try to sand all those to the line, and then we'll roll it over a little bit. So I'm going to just leave the line when I'm sanding, and then we'll round it all over and make it look good. All right, to sand up to that pencil line, I got one of my more used blocks, I guess. So we're going to be laying it down like that. So we got some peel and stick 120. Should make pretty short work of this. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of sand it down in here. And I can hold this up tight up against here. Now this isn't exactly the match for that radius, but it does get me there. You just kind of have to, you know, make your own tools as you go. I'm just going to rub right down through here, keep working my line. All right, I can just see my line right there, just right there. So it feels pretty good. If I feel it's got a nice clean radius, got a little high spot right here I need to hit. Pencil line still showing. And I'll bring the transition from this part to that part. Some of it is because this is rounded and that's got a nice sharp edge on it, which we will fix in a second. Now what I have to do is round this over to match this radius up here, and then we'll be looking pretty good. So I am just going to peel this 120 off of here and fold it in half. And gently round this over. And as I go through this, I'm going to go to the other side and check. The other side's unmolested, so I can check it and see where this bead goes and just where it starts to really flatten out. So the bead holds this radius right here on the body line, holds its shape really to right about here. So we've got it lined up pretty good, I think. Now the windshield rubber is probably going to cover all this. I don't know which windshield rubber he's going to use. I've seen some come really tight. I've seen some that stick way over. So we want to make this look good no matter what happens. You don't want to assume some trim is going to cover something and just going to do a, kind of a lazy job on it. And then later when it's in paint and polished and done, you're standing there going, oh crap, that doesn't cover. So I think that looks pretty good right there. I'm going to stop. Once we get it in prime, the shape shows up a lot more, and then you can fine tune that. It's better to stop short than try to have to add back on top of this ridge. I'd rather have it be too tall and be able to sand down to it later with primer on it than have to clean it all up and apply more filler. So I'm going to stop right there. The more I usually mess with stuff, it causes more problems. So I kind of learned to be a little more patient. Don't go to prime too early, but also know that how it helps show up, your imperfections or actually the shape of that radius. So you can't tell where the blue and the steel and the body filler start and stop. it's all one color and you can get a really good idea of what it looks like. So we're going to stop right there. We need a little glazing there. I'll probably run over this with some 120 because we stopped at 80 here, but this looks pretty good. We're going to stop right there. All right, let's take a quick tour here of all the filling and repairing we've done. So we got the body filler in here real nice. Takes care of that paint lip we had right there. And of course we had the pits that were filled in with the metal to metal, the metal reinforced body filler. So that's all taken care of. Had a few chips down here that we took care of. We had some glazing up here that I redid. Actually resanded this whole thing because I didn't like it. And we had some pinholes in here that I filled with glazing. Had a little dinger right here, took care of with some glazing. Have one right up here in the center and took care of that one too. Took care of that after I kicked the light. And then we took care of this one right here. I had to reglaze that one. And a little one right here. I think a screwdriver slipped when they taken the mirror or the window out or something, not sure. And then this one. Now this one, it's got a lot of different layers of stuff on here. So we've got metal reinforced body filler, we've got body filler, and we've got glazing, and it feels good. It's got all the right shape, got the holes re-drilled through the body filler. There's steel right underneath there, so it's not super thick. So, and I held the mirror arm up there and it matches the profile perfectly. So happy with that, but we're at the point now where I need to get primer on this. I just can't quite get it right because these layers of paint, you know, we got multiple layers of paint coming down through here, and to feather edge that back, it's just not going to happen right now. So we need to get some primer on it, tie it all together, and then we can sand it out and then see how it looks. Because right now, it's hard to tell. But by hand, it feels really good. So I'm pretty happy the way it came out. Okay, that just about wraps up this video and getting body filler in all the repaired areas. So we had the 2 patch panels on the lower end. We had the spot over there where we ground the paint back where it was really pitted, and then we had to feather that in. And then we have the antenna hole and the mirror mount that we did work over here. On top of that, we had the 2 little areas on the window here where we used that metal to metal, that metal reinforced body filler on the last video. So we got all that filled. And then we got everything glazed, and while we had the glazing out, we went ahead and took care of some dingers and some scratches and nicks and stuff, so that gets us that much farther ahead for the next step. So really happy with the way this came out. It does need to get some prime for me to go any farther though. It's just too much going on here for me to tell exactly what's going on. So I do need to get some primer on it before we can tell for sure how well we did here. So thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. If you're watching this video and you're just new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate the support, and it does help promote the channel. We'll see you on the next one.